Look, it's no secret. I'm not a Power BI expert, but sometimes I need to get reporting into my apps. So what do? I'm going to use Power Apps, duh. And what we're going to do today is we're going to build out some Power Apps reporting that I just put into a customer's app, and we're going to do it using the HTML control. So we're going to write some HTML to make a very nice formatted table that's going to pull data from 3 different data sources, because that was one of my requirements. And we're going to do conditional formatting. We're even going to talk about how to email it. Now, if you're thinking, Shane, I already know how to do HTML and make a table to show stuff. Why do I need this video? Well, then after we get through the basics of it, I'm going to talk to you about all the things I did to optimizing it using the with function. The idea here is that in a lot of these scenarios, you're doing a bunch of redundant calls, which take a long time. So we're going to try to tune it out and do some fun things with that. Sound like fun? Well, let's just switch over to my desktop and take a look. All right, so this was an app I built for my customer. And so the idea is that they are a finance company, they do billions of dollars in transactions every year. And so the executive layer, the finance team, the salespeople, everyone wanted just a quick one-stop shop to analyze some data real quick, like on a day-to-day type of basis, right? They have Power BI reporting, they have a bunch of other tools to do grander, bigger things. But sometimes, the executive, she's just out on the golf course. She wants to be able to pop in real quick, be like, hey, can I play another 9? And then she looks at the app and she's like, hey, numbers look good today. Let's move on. And so if you look at their app, right, they have these different screens. They basically have broken things down into different detailed reporting for the different regions that they work in. And so that is great and all, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about is this button that we recently added for them at the bottom, and that is global. So if we click on global, all it does is just a simple pop-up. This pop-up, as you're going to see, is saying, hey, here's all your today totals. Here's your yesterday totals, your month to dates, quarter to dates, last month to date, years to date, I don't know, all of these financial data. We are doing some color coding based on where they are. So, we have yellow numbers if they are, or not yellow, that's green. We have green numbers if they're at yesterday's number or greater, or I think yesterday's number 95% or greater, something like that. We have red if it's less than 80%. And then we just do white if it is, basically in the middle. We're pulling this in from 3 different SQL Server views in their case. And the views are formatted, I'll show you in a minute what it looks like, but across the top of the column. So we couldn't just easily do a gallery because we needed to basically, we have just one row with all of this information. The view is consolidated at all. We're pulling this in. Now the totals though, this one is having to calculate Europe, US, and Asia Pacific all into one. So we're doing calculations to get to all these numbers because they don't have a view that has all that built into it. And if we scroll down, then we have the US specific numbers, the EMEA specific numbers, and the APAC specific numbers broken down by all the different regions as well. But all of this is just coming from 3 SQL views and 1 HTML control. Also, for a little fun, I added the ability to email this off. So if we hit this button, this will send an email off with this. And as you can see, after a few seconds, I get an email. It's got all just the same exact data, right? Because the beauty of the HTML control is that data, we just literally send that data straight to Outlook. Boom, there it is. No work whatsoever. It literally took me 3 seconds to add this feature. And the same thing, if you want to make a PDF of this output, you would send this over to Flow, right? OneDrive, and go through the whole PDF process. So I'll put that video up there if you've never done that. And if you're thinking, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could choose a user? Yeah, we could add all that functionality, but this emailing wasn't one of their requirements. So I didn't do any more than just gave you guys a quick reminder you could do it. And obviously we hit the X and close out. Want to see how we build that, right? And then after we get done building it, we'll talk about the performance side. Okay, so before we dig into theirs, right, it's complicated. There's a lot going on there. Let's just make ourselves a new screen. And let's talk about the data real quick. So if we look at the data sources, what I've done is I've just pulled this data from Excel, right? I just get a hard copy because obviously I don't have a SQL Server with their data and I can't show you their data anyway, right? All this data is fake numbers. But as a reminder, right, like by pulling it in like this, so if you're a subscriber over the YouTube library at training.powerapps911.com, you can just download this whole working app and you just copy and paste it, it would all work. But let's look at the Excel real quick. And so I'm just using this Excel to show you, right, what it looks like. Because each data center, say I have a data center for each region, in there is a SQL table. All the tables had the same name. And all the tables were structured the same way, or I guess they're not technically tables, they're views, but they're just like this, right? It's one row and it's just got the different columns, right? So day total, yesterday total, month to date, last month, last quarter, blah, blah, blah. And I just used ChatGPT once I had the columns to make me fake numbers, right? Yay, ChatGPT. But there you go. So we just got a bunch of fake data and I just had the US, EU, and AP. So over in our Power App, these represent, in their case, it was SQL view from the US server, SQL view from the Europe server, SQL view from the Asia server is how we were pulling that in. And so that's where we get the data from. In their app, then I was like, all right, well, let's insert under a display the HTML text control. And I did a bunch of formatting stuff. Like you saw the cute little gray pop-up. I'll show you how all that works in a minute. But right now we're worried about writing the code, right? So the first thing we want to do here is we want to create ourselves a table. So we'll do this in HTML. All right, at a very simple level, this is what the table looks like, right? We're opening a table. We're saying, hey, table row, and then we're having a TD, and we're setting a style to left align the today, and we're putting a little gray border here, and then left, actually let's change this to right align. Then we're gonna right align the number, and we're gonna have that same gray border, and then the same thing for yesterday. We're gonna copy this and change this one to be right aligned as well. So at a very simple level, that's what we want the table to look like. Okay, so then now we're like, hey, that's great, but that's all fake data. So then now we want to incorporate let's just do the US. Okay, so what we could do is we know that in our US table, so we could do something like this. We know where, we want today, we know where the 2 is. We're going to delete that. And what we want to do here is we want to insert a dynamic call. Now, we do it like this first to make sure that, look, that tells you that right there where that and is, that went in well because it still displays at the bottom, that where that and is where we're going to put our dynamic stuff. So let's just copy that. Or no, let's not copy that. Let's just go here. So then now what we need to do is we need to do some type of lookup. And so in our case, what we're going to do is we could just say first US, remember that's the name of our data source. And then what do we want? So that will give you the first record, the first row. There's only one row, but it doesn't matter. You still have to get it the record. So first US, and then we could do dot. And then we would just need to know that day total is the field that stores the amount of data they did for today. Just like that, there it is. So if we want to then go down here and replace yesterday's, we could then, we'll copy all of this. Actually, we'll copy all of this. I got my double quotes and everything. We're going to replace the number 1 with that. And then obviously that's not the right column. So we're going to start to type in yes, yesterday total. And so now we've got the 2 totals, right? We've pulled them in from the data source. Now they don't look like currency, no big deal. We could then go here and do text, and then we'd go around this, and then we would do this here, and we would say something like that. That would be the way to format that. And then we could just do the same exact thing here. And look at that. Now they've got those 2 formatted. Pretty straightforward, right? That's pretty straightforward. And if we're just doing the US in this case, then that's great. And so let's add another row real quick and actually talk about what we're doing in the US. So maybe we'll go up here. We throw in this HTML. All right, so something like that, right? Obviously, I'm cutting out, you guys haven't watched me type all that in. And if you're thinking, Shane, how do you know all this stuff? Remember, we use W3 Schools is a great learning resource for HTML, or my friend ChatGPT. Just ask it how to write this, and it's probably going to spit it out for you. And I'll put a link up there to the video for ChatGPT if you haven't done that before. Okay, so now obviously we could just walk through, and so we repeat this for, month to date, or month to date, last month to date, quarter to date, right? Like all of those different data fields that they wanted. We would just walk through and we would just add all of these one at a time. And that's how you would complete the US. We're not going to add all those, but pretend like we had. What we want to do now is we want to talk a little bit about, if you remember over here when we looked at it, today was green because today's total was better than yesterday's total. And so that was green, right? Whereas quarter to date is worse than last quarter to date. So that was red. So how did we do that? So over here, what we're going to do is we're going to go and first thing we're going to say is, all right, so we just saw background color equals DDDD is how I made background color green there. So what if we just copy this? Let's copy this. Let's go down here to the TD for the number right there. And if we paste that in, does that make that gray? It does. And then what if we, instead of doing that, what if we say green? Look at that, it makes it green. Any HTML color we could put in there. And I think on the other one, I used like a lighter green or something like that. No big deal. But now that we understand that's how you could do green, and then if you wanted to make it, instead of green, you want to make it red. Oh, I gotta spell red correctly. You can make it red. So we know that we can make this portion right here right? What if we made this an if? So what would I do? I would probably go right here, close that, and then replace red with an ampersand again. Now, right now, there's just nothing, but we know where that ampersand is where we need to dynamically get some type of if. So we could just say if, and then let's just do this. If true, green, else red. But that's actually not going to be right because it's trying to return color objects. So we just need the text green, right? So let's put those in double quotes. All right, this is back to my whole philosophy on solving small problems. So now I can say, hey, if whatever I put here is true, that would make that green. And if whatever I put here was false, oh, you got to spell false correctly, then that should make it red. So now we know that we've got that ability to toggle the color based on a condition. And so now that we've done all that, now we might just say, let's just do easy. Let's just grab this. We know this is today's total, so copy. So if that is greater than this one, right? This is the one for yesterday. Control copy. We'll paste that in. And so since it's greater than, it's green. If it was less than, it would be red. So I'll show you the formula. Let's just go look at the formula that they used. But that's it, right? But notice I walked you to it small steps because your scenario is going to be different. That's why we solve baby problems and we got to the output. Okay, so if we go look over here at HTML text here, you'll see that what I did for them was, so background color. So if var today is greater than or equal to, then they got light green. So then instead of green, if today's total divided by yesterday's total is greater than or equal to 95%, then it's transparent. So we don't want a color. And then if it's not, so if it's less than 95%, so they're having a bad day like they are quarter to date, then light coral. Remember, these are fake numbers. These are not my customers' numbers. Don't judge. You get an idea, right? So that's the type of thing that I did in the if. And if you're looking at this going, Shane, why are there these around here? It's because we changed the formula. So those don't need to be there. Don't overthink what I did. Just know that you can do calculations, do an if, because Power Apps just wants what Power Apps wants, right? My buddy Patrick just reminded me that I always say that, so I'm gonna say that today. Once you figured out that, it just wants the text green or the text red here, whatever you can do to do it. So whether it was an if formula, a switch statement you're looking at from a database, I don't care. But that's how we were able to add that fancy color formatting to this. And so that would give them what they wanted, right? So this is that the US specific table. Now in their case though, the first table is actually total, which is all three of them combined. So after I did the US table, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy, and I'm just going to do a little ampersand. Oh, that's not ampersand. Ampersand, and then paste. So now I've got two copies of the US table, but we're going to change this top one from US. Right, we'll just go find, where did I write the word US? We're going to change this to global. And so then now here, I don't want the US numbers. Well, I mean, I do want the US numbers, but I don't want those specifically. I want text first US day total. So let's copy that, Control C. And then we're going to say add that number, but instead of first US, now we're going to add first EU, right? Because that's the table for EU. And then we're going to add again. And then we're going to change this one to be AP for Asia Pacific. And so now look, those are different numbers because now it's just on the fly adding these three numbers up. And once it's added those three numbers up, then it is doing, right? And so then to do my color coordinating, I would just need to do the same type of thing, right? I just grab all three of these, Control copy. And so then now what we would have to do is we would replace this section. So we'll put this in quotes like I just had. This is how I end up with quotes. So add all those numbers up. Are they greater than, and right now it says yesterday total. Oh, so let's go fix yesterday. So for yesterday, same drill, right? Copy, and then paste, and then paste. And then now instead of US here, right? This is EU, and then this one is AP. And now we can see that we're adding those three up. And so now if we copy that, we go up here. And so here where I was doing first US yesterday total, we would do our double quotes or our quote or parentheses. Not, those aren't quotes, those are parentheses. And so then boom, now we've got it, right? So now we're doing both, or we're doing a total, right? So here's all three countries added up. and then doing the same type of formatting. And then we have a second table where we're doing the US. And so then you're like, all right, well, that's awesome and all, but now I'm going to put some spacing in here. Now I need a EU table. Once again, we would just copy this table, copy. I'll hit enter here. I'll do an ampersand. We'll paste this in. And then now what did we do? We would change this from saying US to EU. And then we would just change all of these to EU, 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 and EU, right? So we would change all the pieces in there. And so now we've got today, yesterday, and EU. And because the numbers are all different, I know that I've successfully done it right. I would probably want to go validate that this was right. But the fact that everything's different, I feel pretty good that we've got those. And then we would just do the same thing for Asia Pacific. We're not going to do that, but it literally be the same copy, pasting, and changing everything to be APs. Okay. And this is literally how I built theirs, right? And as you see on theirs, though, instead of just today and yesterday, like we've got, 25 fields. I don't know. I've never counted them. There are too many. But I spent a lot of times copying and pasting because, once I built the US one, I was like, all right, it looked good. I ran it by the customer, showed it to him. He said, yep, that's what we wanted. And so then I duplicated it once and made it a combo of all three. And I duplicated it the rest of the times to make it the others. If you look at this though, you can kind of see that it gets repetitive, and B, by repetitive, I mean, it's calling the same stuff. It's doing some of the same calculations repetitively. Like there was a lot that I didn't like here. Pause your brain for a second. Like if you've got your head wrapped around how I've done it thus far, like if you're like, cool, I understand what you've done. I'm following, maybe the HTML is a little foreign to you. Remember, like it's on the screen right now. You can copy it, or you can just go subscribe and download the app, whatever. Now that you've got this, now let's go look at the other one and let's go deeper. Let's look at how we built upon this. But this is literally what I built at the beginning until I said, hey, I want to make this better. Okay, so let's go look at their code. So in their code, it's a lot more. What we're going to do is we're going to introduce this concept of width, right? So width is a great function if you're not using it. The idea is it's creating a variable that you can use just within the confines of that function. And so the first thing I did was I said, hey, set a variable called var US to be first US. I didn't want to type all that garbage over and over again, right? So I just put that record into these variables to make my life easier. This also paid dividends because one of the things that they did to me halfway through this was they changed all the SQLs, right? They changed all the SQL Server views I was using to different ones because they wanted different columns. And I was like, no problem. I just went here, right? Because instead of first US, this says first their SQL Server SQL Server view from the US server, first from the EU server, first from the Asia Pacific server. And so when they changed the things, I just changed it right here because nowhere in my app does it directly say what data source it's using. Everything in here, it just says, var US this, var US that, or EMA that. Okay. So that was the first optimization I made. Secondly, because I kept playing with styles, this is something that doesn't click for a lot of people. This is something I talk about in my advanced 401 class when we do code optimization. In this case, I wanted all my table rows to be the same, but I didn't want to have to type this in everywhere. So I made a variable called var tr that is just the text tr style border 1px solid dd blah, 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 right? And so then I could just use it everywhere. If we went back over here, so over here, if we wanted to change all of our TDs have the styling put here. And so, or for the today and yesterday, right? So if instead of having this in my code, because I might want to change this, and I don't want to change it in 25 times 3 or times 4, so 100 spots, what I might do is say, you know what, this TD style right here, we could just go here. We'll copy that right here, Control C, and we can go up here. And so we can just say a width function and then say width, and then we'll call this var TD, and then set that function to be that. Go to the bottom to close our width function. Make sure you do that. But then now, oh, I missed my double quotes around this. So double quote, right? Because it's a string. But so now that string is stored in a var TD. So I could copy this. And so then here, instead of saying, hey, use this style, I would just paste this in, which puts that text right there. And so you can see it was looking different, But if I'm like, all right, now that we have the ability to change this on the fly, what if instead of the border being 1 pixel for these, I want it to be 10 pixels? So if I change that, nothing happens because my borders are collapsed. All right, we'll change the text align to be right. Oh, we'll change it in the middle, center. Oh, duh. I forgot to, I placed it in my var TD, but I didn't put the quotes around it. So it's not actually using as a variable. It's literally just putting the words var TD in there. So there you go. So now today is centered, and I bet now if I put my border to 10, that would work. There you go. So it looks terrible, but you get the idea. So the idea then is that everywhere when I was doing these, if I just put var TD, I could optimize that. So in their code, that was the way all the code was written, right? var, tr, td, th are all up here. And the reason I do this is you're thinking, well, Shane, HTML does styles. It does, but HTML styles aren't supported in different parts of Power Apps. So like the HTML control doesn't support anything other than inline styles. It doesn't support header styles or whatever you call those. So we have to do inline styling. So this was a way for me to kind of recreate that global styling in here, right? It doesn't do CSS as well, so you can't pull style sheets or anything like that. So this is my poor man's style sheet. Now, so that was the first. Now the second thing I need to do, so if we go down here and look, I had to do a lot of calculations, right? So remember when we were talking about like the green, the transparent, or the red. So for that, it's like, hey, if var today was greater than var total yesterday. But remember before, what I would have had to do was I would have had to paste in here var US yesterday total versus var EU yesterday total plus var APAC total. I had like hundreds of redundant characters in here, but I know I needed to do that in multiple places. So what I did was I created a with inside my with. And so you can see var total today, I made a variable and it's just adding up those 3. And then var total yesterday is just adding up yesterday's 3 totals. So now that I have those 2 pre-calculated, right? Calculated them once. Now down here, look, var total today. I mean, how many times do I use var total today? All right, I use it 3 times. Var total yesterday gets used 3 times. So I did the calculation once. So this reduced the number of code I had, and it also reduced the amount of, just stuff I had to stare out, and it helped performance a little bit. Right? So just those 2 changes grossly made my life easier. So the other thing that I did that might not be as applicable to you, but I had to rearrange the rows. Like the first version of like the order they gave them to me weren't the order that we wanted to see them in. What you're going to see here is that, once I kind of had this pattern down, but now, so we have today and yesterday, and I have a space, and then I have all the month stuff, and then I have a space, and then quarter, I have a space, and then year, I have a space, and then grand total, I have a space. So I kind of broke these into sections. Remember, because Power Apps doesn't care if there's 27 enters here. But by breaking these up for myself, it was just easier for me to follow along and kind of have these in chunks, because anytime I'm troubleshooting something, changing something, it's usually around a specific section. Also, you might have noticed that if we scroll down a little bit here, grand total and grand transaction number of transactions. So that one had a little bit of special formatting as well. And if we look down here, we can just see all I really had to do was I added a font weight equals bold for both of those. So in their inline style, so they're not using the global style. I just copied it and made them their own. So I could easily make those bold. There's probably 7 different ways you can make things bold inside of HTML, but that was the way I did this. So there you go. That is how I formatted that and did a little bit of optimization. And then just for you guys, literally just for you, because this is not in the customer app, I thought it'd be cool if we emailed this. And look at how easy that is. I added the Office 365 Outlook connector right under data sources over here. Send email v2, user email, that's the current logged in user. So it would just always go to yourself. You could have a text input, a people picker if you want them to choose who to send it to. I didn't build all that, but you could. I just set the subject to here's the volume data. And then the body is just HTML text 1, HTML text. So just like that, it emails that. And that was that beautiful email that we saw. Right there it is in night mode or dark mode or whatever, and then in light mode. But so I did no extra work. Because I did it in HTML, I already had it. I was able to leverage it. And then that same thing if you want to send it off to a PDF. Now, I also want you to keep in mind that, I kind of tease this in as like, hey, this is a replacement for Power BI, because it's real easy to look at this and go, I could have done this in Power BI faster, easier, not written all that HTML. I get that. But a lot of times, we have customers, they want to put reporting like this in their apps and they don't want to do Power BI licensing, or they don't have Power BI skills or whatever, right? Like, don't get all judgy with people because some people want to do this type of stuff in their app. Would Power BI maybe be a better tool? Probably. Do I know how to write a Power BI to do this and embed it in a Power App that would look nice? Yeah, maybe. For them, this was the fast answer. This got them exactly what they wanted. We can easily make changes. They didn't have to worry about any additional Power Apps licenses or constraints or loading it up. Like, this just works. And working is better than not working. So, don't get judgy. Build this where you're comfortable with. If you can build what you want here and you're happy with what you got here, then why overthink it? Yes, there's better answers. There's always a better answer. But if you're going to do that, you're probably never going to launch your app. So quick and dirty. This isn't even dirty. This is quick and nice. They are thrilled with this. So don't be judgy. It worked, right? So there you go. That's what I've got today. Thoughts, questions, ideas? Leave them below. Here at Power Apps 911, we build apps like this for customers. This app is awesome. It's responsive. It works on their iPhones, their iPads, on their desktops. We can do projects like that for you. We can do the whole project for you. We can do just simple break fix. You just have a simple problem. We have this thing called ad hoc, where we'll just hop on a phone with you for 30 minutes or on a Teams call with you, not a phone these days. But we will help you fix your problem. Or you can buy a bucket of mentoring hours, so buy like 10 hours at a time, and then just kind of use those as break fix help along the way. So we have a lot of different services to help. And of course, we have training, right? This video just came out today. I actually was doing a live training class today with a whole bunch of people. So why aren't you in that live training with me? You could spend 5 days together. How fun would that be? All right, that's enough of the blah, blah, blah. With that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.